Welcome to the Parent Ed podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. Family life can be crazy and chaotic, so join us as we figure it out together.
Hello and welcome to the Parent Ed podcast. My name is Yong and I'm your host for this episode. In each episode of the Parent Ed podcast, we'll be tackling questions that parents are asking about family life, parenting, marriage, work life, and more. We'll be speaking with everyday parents and practitioners and to share with us their experience and practical ideas. We hope that you will keep tuning in to learn with us and to grow in your journey as parents. Did you know that much of what we think of ourselves comes from our mindset? That is to say, our mindset strongly affects what we want and whether we succeed in getting it. This both propels us and prevents us from fulfilling our potential. Today, we have a special guest, Jocelyn Wee, an educator who teaches primary and secondary school kids critical life skills like the growth mindset. With her help, we are going to discover how to empower our children with the growth mindset. Welcome, Jocelyn, and thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hi, June.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your work currently, as well as maybe your kids and family?
I'm a mom of 3, 5, 12, and 16. So they are in different life stages, preschooler, tween, and teen. So it makes for a very interesting experience. For example, like in the day, I can be at the indoor playground, sliding with my 5-year-old. And then at night, I'm dealing with teenage angst, friendship issues, stuff like that. So, well, on the work front, the varied experiences continues. So besides growth mindset, I conduct leadership programs, design thinking workshops, conflict resolution, public speaking. So these are just some of the life skill programs I conduct, and to a varying age groups, different students from primary to secondary.
That sounds really exciting. I wonder how you managed to pack everything in.
Okay, a lot of variety. I like it.
Okay, that's great. Well, perhaps to help our listeners understand a little bit more about mindset and specifically the growth mindset, could you help to describe or explain what are the different mindsets that we can have and how this actually affects us?
So basically, mindset is a set of beliefs and assumptions that will actually shape your actions. So for growth mindset, right, so basically it's your attitude is that there can be change for the better. Okay, there is always hope. But with fixed mindset, it's kind of like status quo, kind of like a victim mentality, like, you're always being defeated. Having a fixed mindset is more than just having a positive mindset. It's also a mindset that actually challenges, encourages people to do even difficult things. So you're ready to overcome problems, you don't give up easily. And I also would like to talk about the power of yet. Okay, this is something that is frequently mentioned in growth mindset. So basically, a lot of times we are probably quite negative, we can be. So we might be speaking things like, oh, I can't do it. So instead of just saying, I can't do it, you say, I can't do it yet. Or you can say, I'm not good enough. You can say, I'm not good enough yet. Or it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work yet. I'm not there. You add a yet. I'm not there yet.
This simple 3-letter word,
Yes.
It can be so powerful.
Yep, correct. Also about growth mindset language, I think it's important to actually talk to ourselves because we have a tape playing in our mind. So how do you talk to yourself in a growth mindset language? Okay, but before I go into that, right, perhaps just want to elaborate a bit more about a fixed mindset, the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. So for example, if you have a fixed mindset, you will tell yourself, I'm either stupid or smart. I either can do this or I can't do this. But with growth mindset, you actually say, I can learn this through dedication and hard work. When you have a fixed mindset, you allow failures to determine the outcome. Okay, and you also allow circumstances to influence your action. But when you have growth mindset, you're like, oh, I'm ready to try new things. I want to move out of this comfort zone. And you're actually even challenged to set and break new personal records. Okay, more about growth mindset language. So for example, fixed mindset, you probably tell yourself, I don't like this, it's a new thing, it's a new challenge, I don't want to do this. But growth mindset, you will tell yourself, I want to try new challenges. Okay, but fixed mindset, for example, you'll say, oh, I failed at this, I'm really lousy at this, shows that I'm not good at it. But with growth mindset language, you'll be saying, I will learn from my failures. I can always learn from my mistakes. And with fixed mindset, you will say that I stick to what I'm really good at. This is my strength, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do something that I'm not good in. But with growth mindset language, you'll be telling yourself, I can learn anything I want, that I put my mind to.
These are great. Thank you for sharing. I can even identify some of these very problematic statements, even in my own self-talk, as well as my children. So I think this is something that we really need to learn to overcome. And it's so useful whether you consider it's like for academic performance or whether just daily life, trying something new, like a new hobby, right? Perhaps let's try to concretize this for our listeners. So let's say we have a scenario where a child is struggling with math and is gone for a period of time, right? So how would you help this child to reframe this thinking that may have set in? I'm really terrible at math. I'm just a failure at math. How would you help this child? Imagine that I'm this child. What would you say to me?
I think when a child is struggling with math, so instead of saying that I'm always failing, you can say that I'm actually not there yet, but with some strategies, we can get there. But of course, as a parent, you have to sit with your child and actually work through some goals. Because if you talk about growth mindset, but it's just very up there and you don't have concrete steps to take, then actually you can't achieve what you want. You can't grow as a person. So I think you can sit down with the child, perhaps ask the child, is there any topic that you're weak in? And encourage the child that it actually takes time for you to practice and work at it, and you will eventually succeed. And I think also importantly is you celebrate small wins. I think sometimes parents, we have really high expectations of your kids, and maybe we don't give them enough time. So yeah, I personally also do sometimes. It's like, hey, I give you tuition already, but how come you're not achieving what you're supposed to achieve? But maybe it's like only 3 months. Maybe the child needs a longer time. So I think maybe 1 month target. Okay, how? Maybe just improve by 1 or 2 marks in there, WA, for math, or even, okay, maybe we don't even need to talk about the graded assessments, but even as you work at, maybe now you can attempt 5 problem sums in maybe, I don't know, say 1 hour. Maybe you could do it with less time and more accuracy. So I think set concrete goals as well as celebrate the small wins. So, wow, you 1 mark, it's better. That's great improvement. Let's work at what's your target. So I think let's journey with the kid in this way with lots of encouragement. Yeah.
But mommy, it's so hard.
Oh yeah, I agree. That's me too. Yes.
I just want to give up.
Okay. Growth mindset. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so what would you say to me if I was this child, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm just, I'm not going to do math forever. It's not going to help me in my career anyway.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Okay, it's like, why am I studying this? It's not relevant. Okay, but I guess for academics, of course, growth mindset is not just applicable to academics, but it really shapes your life because it's about resilience, it's about having discipline and self-perseverance. So I think first is to help the child understand that it's not just about getting good grades. It's in the process of getting good grades, even if you're doing something you don't like, what growth is there can you see in yourself? What character change, that you can see? So it actually teaches you discipline, perseverance. Like if the child says, it's not relevant to work, but I said, do you know in the workplace, it's even more stressful than in school? It could be because you're dealing with so many different people, challenges. So what you are learning now is something you're weak in, but you are struggling, but if you learn how to overcome, you learn how to have discipline and persevere and not give up, it will really help you in future, as you work with different people in your work life in that sense. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Like, when the child is so focused on the grade and is so focused on the work that's so difficult and so overwhelming, you actually help to bring out the fact that just by persevering on and just by telling yourself, don't give up, it's hard, but I can do this, and I can possibly get the help of mommy or my tuition teacher to help me along in this area that I'm currently weak at and I'm not there yet. It helps them to perhaps see that there is a point to this, and it's not just to get the good grade, to make other people happy, but perhaps I'm learning something that I can use in the future. I think it's quite hard for a younger child perhaps, but for an older, a tween or a teen, they might be able to see that it helps them to attain their goals. And it's not just academic goals, it could be a later stage goal as well.
And I think you brought up important points like, let them know that you're not alone on this journey. So if you need help, tuition teacher or your parents or even friends. I mean, in some of the schools that I teach in, they even have peer support. So some kids who are like stronger in that subject actually helps the weaker kids. So I think it's very important to let them know that they are not alone and that there's always someone there for them. Yeah.
Perhaps let's move on to talk a little bit about helping our children understand strengths and weaknesses. Because you mentioned a little bit about peer support, right? So it's not always, let's say I'm struggling with math and I may need additional support in this area, but I could be strong in perhaps English or science, right? And this is a way that I can see that I don't need to measure my entire self-worth by this poor grade in math. It can be in other areas that I excel in and do well in, and I could possibly help others as well. Do you think this helped just getting them out of this rut and seeing that, hey, they have something to contribute?
I think in order to encourage our kids effectively, we really need to understand our kids. Even sometimes ourselves, we might it's time to find out what kind of things, what job we like, what more a child. So I think for growth mindset, it's also a journey of growth, which means it's about exploring. It's okay to try new things, give everything a try. You might think you're good in this or not good in this, but give it a try, you never know. First, you have to understand your child. And of course, that comes through a lot of conversations, talking, observing your child, spending quality time with your child, and then sit down. This is talking about older kids, right? So sitting down and actually talking to them about what their strengths and weaknesses are. So in some of our classes, we actually get them to list down their strengths and weaknesses, and actually they share with their friends and they actually see like, oh, okay, this is an area I'm good in and this is an area you're weaker in, how we can actually support one another. But I think in understanding strengths and weaknesses, like developing this self-awareness in the child, like I said, first is you give it a try. You always encourage them to try new experiences and then not to give up. So maybe, for example, okay, like say, maybe a child is learning piano. How do we know whether this child should continue? Because I have a daughter who actually started, but she actually stopped because it's PSLE year as well. But she's also not very sure whether she's interested in this particular skill. But I think when we understand our kids and they understand their own strengths and weaknesses, they will recognize that. And are they giving up because it's a mindset thing? It's like, I feel I'm not as good as this other person who is learning piano, so you're comparing. And when they're comparing, it's a fixed mindset then, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I'm not as good, so I'm not going to do it. It's really sitting down and talking to a child and trying to understand what motivates this child. Is it something she wants to persist in, but she's giving up? Is it because really it's a lack of talent, or is it a mindset thing? Yeah, so with this, I think parents also need to give the children time. Let's say they are learning a new skill, instead of like, oh, after 3 months, or of course, if you have to see your child, if your child is a bit more laid back and it's because the kid is not putting enough effort, not disciplined, that's another area to work at. I mean, that's also related to growth mindset, not giving up and things like that. But if the child is like, say, a high performing child, very perfectionist, high standards, then it's very easily discouraged by small setbacks. Then we have to then step in and basically have a lot of conversations with your child. Why? Ask a lot of questions, and then that's how we understand them and we help them understand themselves, so that whatever they put their mind to, we can actually guide them, not just academics, then it could be a new skill, it could even be a character trait they want to change, like very impatient, Growth mindset applies to that as well. I want to change this area in my life. So how do I take steps to do this? So I think I think really understanding your child really helps you then, and helping a child understand himself or herself also, I think sets the child up for success. If they are discouraged and they fail, and we keep encouraging them, then that's when they also learn that failure is not the end. And actually through failure, you really learn and you actually improve, and you're actually discovering more about self. And we should tell them that it is a journey that you enjoy, because at like 45, I'm still discovering more about myself. So you're still young, it's okay, give it a try. Even if you fail, it doesn't matter. Even if you started this thing, you decided you don't want to do it after some time for valid reasons, really think it's not a strength and things like that, then it's okay. It's okay to try and give up if it's not really you. But of course, if you try and you give up because of a certain mindset, then let's work at the mindset.
I think that's so crucial, being able to ask the right questions and to really suss out whether it's the fixed mindset at work or whether it really makes sense for the child in the long term. I think that's really important. And you mentioned also the working at the self-awareness of the child. I think that's really the first step, right? Helping them to see that, oh yeah, I have this habit perhaps that's not really helping me and serving me so well. And I can take certain steps to kind of work at it. And I think what you mentioned about constantly encouraging the child so that they have the motivation and perhaps the strength to continue on, even if they think that they're not so good in this area yet. So I really like those tips that you have been sharing. I think as parents, it's really a journey. Even for ourselves, like we are also on this journey. As you mentioned, we have to kind of be aware of the things that we say to ourselves first, because perhaps more often than not, what we say to ourselves, we also reflect to our children in their times of, disappointment or setback. Is there any other obstacles that you think might hinder our children from growing in their growth mindset? Is there anything that you perhaps see in the classroom as you meet with the younger kids perhaps? Because we've talked a little bit about the older children, so have you seen a younger child who's struggling, doing a little task that you gave them, and then what would you do with this child? How will you coach them?
In the classrooms, we actually have some activities that kind of help us see how they deal with challenges. Okay, so basically, just to share one activity, so they have to build maybe a 4-story kind of house, deck of cards. Okay, so use the deck of cards to form kind of a pyramid kind of house. So usually they can do one level and it's pretty okay. By the time they get to the second, the fourth is the challenge. Okay, so of course this activity actually is done from, even P1s can do it, and then I think even the upper primary, primary 4 and 5, they do it. But of course, the younger ones will struggle more. But it's very interesting to observe them, because then they will start blaming each other or the circumstance, or they'll say, but then we'll see, hey, what are you going to do about it? Because they'll be like, oh, the fan is blowing my card. Say, okay, then what do you want to do about it? Switch it off. Okay, then they switch off. Then they'll be like, but it's very hot, so they'll be struggling, concentrating, and they're sweating, and then they're like, and they start complaining. But that's life, right? There's a cost to it to achieve something. So actually most of them do ask to switch off the fan. So they start building. Then some kids will be like, oh, my card is, because this cards are actually used a number of times, so some of them are actually a bit bendy, right? So it's pretty hard. They'll complain that the card is cannot do it, it cannot, because of my card, but this other group have better cards. But then there are some groups, then we'll point them, hey, some groups, their cards are actually quite bent, but they managed to do it. So how do you think they managed to do it? So it's interesting to really observe them. And so whenever because as they are doing this, we are going around the different groups, so we'll encourage, we'll say, oh, don't give up. Oh, that's a good strategy. So what are you going to do about this? So we actually ask them questions. We don't really tell them how to solve it. We might give a bit of hint that that's really very, very discouraged, some kids. So eventually they, some of them do hit 4th level, but that's not the point, because we're talking not about the outcome, but the process and what you are learning from that. So most of them actually find this activity very enjoyable, and I think it's good reflection of real life as well, because we can't always control circumstances. So this activity actually teaches them, so do you blame people? Some of them blame their own, you give me a group mate, that's not very helpful, So you can't control, so do you blame circumstances? Do you blame people? But you actually have the power, the growth mindset, to actually make a change. So how do you solve this problem? So I think with growth mindset, it teaches them resilience, which is very important life skill for your life, right? In every situation. But at the same time, it also actually teaches you creativity. Okay, I have a problem. Don't say don't know, don't say ask somebody else, but what can you do? There's always something you can do. It might be something small, but there's always something you can do to actually solve this problem. So actually it encourages creativity, innovation. So there's a lot of things that you can learn with growth mindset.
I really like that. It's so empowering, what you tell the kids, And I think you're really teaching them, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Okay. They will say, so sour. Okay. Okay.
Well, what can you do about it?
Okay.
Wow, I'm learning new things that I can use with my kids. Thank you, Jocelyn, for sharing so candidly with us. As we close this session, do you have any parting words that you would like to leave with our listeners?
Have a growth mindset towards developing growth mindset, okay? Because developing a growth mindset is actually a habit. And we actually always tell the kids in the class as well that how do you build muscles? You actually have to exercise, right? And it's painful actually, right? And to build it, but you get stronger in the end. As you embark on this journey of developing growth mindset with your child, I think, remember 3 words: encourage, encourage, encourage. Yourself, your kid, because this growth mindset journey is a lifetime process. So in the journey, there'll always be ups and downs. Don't be discouraged, don't give up. And just to share some practical tools, because actually for younger kids, I'm sure parents know Class Dojo, very familiar, right? Tejun, you are, right? Okay, just go Google growth mindset videos. They actually have a series of really colourful, interesting videos. So this would be suitable for preschoolers, lower primary kids. I think you can even Google books on growth mindset and you can go to the library borrow. So this actually helps, sets up the conversation to talk about growth mindset. But for older kids, we watch movies. So I think recently we watched this show. It's quite old. I think it's Wonder. I don't know whether you've heard of it. About this boy. It's actually from a book. Yeah, with a rare facial abnormality. But how he kind of has growth mindset. Because even despite being bullied in school, he still goes to school every day. Of course, there are struggles. So we actually sit down after watching a movie, we talk about it. And it's a very real issue because bullying in our schools now, I think, they face it also, our own kids. So we talk about it, talk about how you deal with friendship problems, how do you have a growth mindset towards that. For older kids as well, I think share your own personal stories of your challenges, your struggles, you wanted to give up, what did you do? Because I think older kids don't really want you to preach at them, they really want you to connect. So sharing, being vulnerable and sharing your stories and how you overcome is very, very helpful.
Thank you for those tips. Wow, I'm already enjoying this and learning for my own kids as well. Yeah. So thank you, Jocelyn, for taking the time to join us today.
Had a good time. Yeah.
For our listeners, we hope that you have benefited much from this session and that you have a better idea and some new tools on how to go about building the growth mindset in yourself and your child. For more parenting resources, do visit our website at family.org.sg. We also have a PSLE webinar coming up on 9th of July, so do check out our website for more details. You can go to our website or go directly to the link family.org.sg/RFRK PSLE. That's all we have for you today.